Today, I want to talk about my theories for what would have happened in Season 4, or Dimension 4, of the Netflix series The OA, which most fans believe to largely involve aliens. I already did videos on Dimension 3 and 5, which I will link in a playlist down below. Now, the OA is a cohesive puzzle, so to best understand any piece of it, you need to place it next to the whole to see what makes it so unique. Season 4 is just one of 5 seasons that are all meant to have a very similar story, so we can easily see what the general structure of the missing seasons are by comparing them to Seasons 1 and 2. Additionally, the show appears to be both a loop and a palindrome. The title itself indicates this, with the O in the OA representing the never-ending loop of the show, and the A representing how the second half will mirror the first half. With that in mind, Dimension 4 is bound to be similar to Dimension 2, at least thematically. Now, there are a lot of wild and random directions this can go, with Season 4 being the one we know the least about among all of the missing seasons. So it is the season I expect to get the most wrong about, but there are still lots of fun theories to explore. Dimension 3 takes place in a world like our own, where the OA is just a Netflix series, indicating that Dimensions 1 and 2 are the creative makings of Brit Marling in Dimension 3. As such, Dimension 4 should also be a fantasy world of her creation, and now that we know this to be true, it could take on a much more heavy sci-fi theme than previously seen in the show. Aliens have been an interesting part of the OA theories for quite some time, with some people thinking the OA story in Dimension 1 was about how she was abducted by aliens. However, I still maintain that Hap and the captives are just Prairie's alternate personalities, but that aliens will be used in Dimension 4. The most evidence for the aliens appears in Dimension 2, which, as we discussed earlier, will probably be the most similar to Dimension 4. In Episode 4, OA puts on a red dress with an interesting design of an alien ship on it, particularly an alien ship looking like it's about to abduct someone. This is the dress she wears before communicating psychically with the giant octopus Old Night. Octopi are interesting in that they are extremely intelligent, despite their intelligence not being developed in the same ways that we see it developed in humans, and thus in other species that share a more common ancestor than species like octopus. Octopus have been theorized by some of the more crazy thinkers to be an alien species that happened to make it to Earth, explaining just how wildly different they are. Old Night is able to communicate with the OA through his tentacles because the tentacles of an octopus are actually made up of the same matter as their brain. Each tentacle is its own brain and also connected to a greater brain, all operating together and yet independently. The idea of these independent brains connected to one mind fits in with the theme of the show, in which people like OA are presented as being comprised of 4 entities becoming a 5th greater one. This dress, paired with the alien appearance of Old Night, makes me think that Season 4 will be largely about alien abduction. We even see at the beginning of Season 2 that Kareem appears to have first been in a dimension where OA is seen wearing a red dress, similar to the one with the spaceship, but one of the few differences here is that the dress lacked the spaceship entirely. Season 2 ends with OA mysteriously rising into the air, almost magically, before falling on the set of the show in Dimension 3. We were never told why she is rising like this and what was really physically happening in Dimension 2 when this started to happen. But with the alien symbolism in mind, it almost looks like she is being pulled up by an alien ship. In addition to these hints, the creators have always had a fascination with aliens, with it being the subject of the creators' thesis film, Zal Batmanglij, and even starring Brit Marling as the main character. In this film, she even has a birthmark resembling the design of the ship a bit, itself being a reference to alien abduction in the film. A lot of the ideas in the OA were explored in other films in Brit and Zal's past, so it makes sense that aliens would be tied in here too as well, especially since each season tries to get us to rethink how these strange NDE-type experiences work. Season 1 has us thinking it's an afterlife, but Season 2 made us see it was an alternate timeline. Season 3 would have revealed both timelines to have just been the fictional writings of Brit Marling, and I believe Dimension 4 would portray near-death experience phenomena as part of the trend of UFO abductions. Season 2 focused heavily on Kareem trying to find a missing girl, and in Dimension 4, I could see him hunting for missing characters again, this time it all bringing him back to the existence of aliens instead of to the house on Nob Hill. Perhaps if their bodies are not being abducted, they are being left behind with only the consciousness being taken, leaving bodies to be cared for like Michelle in Dimension 2 when she managed to jump into Dimension 3 through the rose stained glass window. In addition to the plot revolving around aliens, we can also explore the actual themes of the season using the patterns from seasons before. Each season tells the story of imprisonment, for instance. Dimension 1 has Oe trapped in the bunker, Dimension 2 in the asylum, and 3 in her own lost memories. At least one person in Dimension 4 will probably have amnesia as well. Since Dimension 4 reflects Dimension 2, I think it may be Homer again. Instead of Homer, or perhaps in addition to him, however, I think Hap could lose his memories in this dimension as well. Oe and perhaps Homer would then be stuck in this dimension, watching over Hap, trying to make sure the version of himself in this dimension isn't as evil as the others, or that the evil version of him doesn't rise to the surface. They would be too afraid to leave this dimension, knowing that if Hap did reawaken, he could come after them with ease, or even jump back into Dimension 3 where he could do more harm. Thus, they would be imprisoned in their attempt to imprison him. They would be stuck in Hap's life, pretending they don't know who his other selves are, making sure he doesn't turn evil, trapped being his prison guard. They may even debate killing him, something foreshadowed back in Oe's childhood when her father warned that the only way to defeat the cold was to become colder than the cold, indicating she would have to become colder than Hap to defeat him. I imagine the season ending with Oe's friends being abducted by aliens, or else being permanently removed from play, with Oe chasing the spaceship as it flies away. With them so impossibly out of reach, or perhaps even dead in the actual story, the only way left to save her friends would be to go back to Dimension 1, to an earlier point in time, and start the cycle over again. Most evidence in the show points to Oe returning to Dimension 1 in Season 5 instead of going to a new dimension. Here, we would see the true version of her story from Season 1. My personal theory is that after showing that Oe was more or less forced to be Hap's prison guard in Season 4, we would return to Dimension 1 in Season 5 to see that Hap was more or less forced to be Oe's prison guard. Back in Season 1, Oe asked Hap to take her in, and when she did, it was shortly after he encouraged her to stop taking her medication that had been suppressing the voices she hears in her head since she was a child. I believe he took her in to do well-meaning research, but as she came down from her medication, she would begin to believe the voices she hears are real, because she can't see that no one is there as a blind woman. She would believe that they are all trapped in a basement together, not realizing that she herself more or less has the freedom to leave at first. But as she goes crazier and crazier, Hap would have to tighten his leash, being afraid of what damage she could do to herself or others if she just went outside. The whole season would invert what we just saw in Season 4, showing Hap doing his best to take care of the woman he let into his home, and becoming a prison guard to keep her and the world safe from her, as she slowly started to devolve into her delusions without her medication. There is a lot to this theory, so I already made a dedicated video breaking it down. Click up here to watch it, or down there to watch a video about what would have happened in Dimension 3 of the show. Leave a comment down below letting me know what OA topic or theory you'd like me to cover next, and I'll see you guys next time.